energy blast. Now what I'm going to do with this smaller brush, make thinner lines surrounding it. And throw some feathering right off of it. Not all the way around it, but just some areas. Again, a stylistic way to render it. That's enough with the feathering, don't want to overdo it. Since it's bigger and closer to us, you can actually do a little bit more variation in the irregularity of the line. So I'm going touching, intersecting. Some spots don't have lines, just keep it random. If you want to do some spatter or stipple effects, you can do that too. Alright, some progress here. Now up to this point I'm still using brushes. Haven't even touched the pen yet. I'm going to continue with the brush while it's still in my hand and has ink in it. And I'm going to do the cracks on the ground here. It's kind of similar to the texture on the monster itself. Keep your lines quick and straight. Don't do any curvy lines. A lot of irregular lines and randomness. Not too much pretty feathering at all. More of a blunt push and pull type lines. Some thick, some thin. Right now I'm just picking one direction and I'm inking all the lines that go in that direction because it just keeps the brush moving fast. This way I don't have to flip the paper around everywhere. Just pick one direction, go with it. When you're done with that direction, pick another direction and go with it. Now the lines are going to be thicker here, so I'm going to lay the ink down a little heavier because it's getting closer to a shadow that is cast by his hand smashing the ground. So maybe thin lines here, the cracks, and I'm going to get closer, I'm going to thicken them up. Some more lines there, black areas, double lines. Just change direction and I'm inking lines that are going kind of diagonally now. I'm going to semi-boldly outline some of these rocks that are lifted up and flying into the air here. Now I'm changing direction again, and at this point I've covered most of the directions that the lines shoot off in. The long crack lines are almost completely inked, and what's left on the ground is basically small dots and tiny little cracks. It can be done easily and quickly with a Crow Quill pen. Do a bit more on the monster's right hand here. I don't want the texturing of the monster's hand to resemble the rocks and the rubble too much. So I'm just going to keep a really light touch. Some more hatching and cross-hatching on his arms from the shadows here. That's slick. Some feathering, diagonal feathering. Some long hatching on the underside of the arm. Blends out into the secondary light. Keep it thick, then thinner. And at the same time as I'm doing it thinner, I'm spreading out the space in between the lines to further help with the gradation. Now the gradation isn't perfect right there, so I'm going to blend it in with cross-hatching into the black. I mean, you can do it the opposite way too. You can start off with the really thin lines and then thicken up. Alright, a few more cracks. I don't know, that's supposed to be a piece of rock right there, but it is now. See, there's not much left to go on the duck. some facial features, and a line to separate the abdomen of the duck from the rest of its body. A thin line here separates its front from the rest of the body. It has to be thin. You can't compete with the thick contour that's already established. There we go. Well, this is meant to be a cute duck. I don't want really any angularity within the lines other than on top of its head and near its tail. Everything else is smooth, almost like a toy. So I'm gonna go back up to the first panel and do some more brush work here with this small pen. I'm doing some feathering on the monster's arm. At the same time, I'm kind of fading the feathering out with a series of dashes and dots. It gives it a more grainy effect that way, as opposed to if I just did feathering alone and left it there. To kind of makes the skin a little too smooth. Of course, we are dealing with a monster. So I'm just gonna do some feathering, some tick marks, and a couple more dots. You can put the dots in between the spacing if you really want to make it fancier, or you can just do what I did and just randomly just throw it out there. It's not going to make too much of a difference. Now here's one thing I want to address. When there's hatching underneath a black area, when you're feathering from the top of the area, you're gradually losing light into the blackness. Now if you have hatching on the other side of it, I tend to not feather that as well, especially if there's one main light source. Otherwise you're indicating that the light sources on either side of the black are equal, which it is not. For example, I will do feathering into the black, traditional feathering, where you would expect it, with the light source coming from above, and then from the bottom I will actually not do feathering into the black. I'll just do really blunt line work. That just kind of indicates there's a more gradual progression away from light from above than it is from the bottom. That gets a little technical, but for you hardcore art buffs, it's something to think about. And you know, like I said, there are situations where you can feather from both ends of the black. I don't feel this situation calls for that. Now, when you see designy areas of hatching and cross hatching, you can really go nuts since it's a background element and it's just more for design and filling up space. You can do traditional feathering, which I often do if I'm kind of in a time crunch. I've seen some inkers do some really wild stuff with the background hatching and cross hatching, what I call waffle gradations. Tim Townsend just goes nuts on these background waffle gradations. I'm going to try to imitate it. I don't know, I can't really do it the way he does it, but just a series of some broken lines, some dots, some variations in the line width itself, leading into the black, gradually blending into the black. It's also a thing to just not make all hatching, cross hatching throughout the page the same. You want to play with it a little bit if it's a background element. I think it's more practical to do it with a pen actually, but oh well. So some broken lines coming from the opposite direction. You can thin it out as you get to the edges. You can spend as much time as you want on it, but I'm going to move up to the shoulder here. I'm gonna make sure my feathering here doesn't compete with the lines in her hair. The feathering is pretty blunt, and the lines coming from her hair are pretty wispy, so I don't think we're gonna have a problem here. I'm just gonna throw in some dashes and stuff. Maybe a little bit of a broken cross hatching up here just a bit. And continue down the monster's right arm here. Obviously still sticking with the trusty brush, my workhorse. Do some more feathering into the darkness. Continue on up the shoulder of the monster. I'm gonna do a little bit of the rendering on her chest area here. I'm gonna smooth out that line. Much better. Underneath her bust, it's kind of scrunched up the fabric. So I'm gonna add another stripe there because I would think that there would be one. Not much to say here, guys. Pretty much said all that needs to be said about this aspect of the inking. Slight little fold in her hand. Maybe I'm going to extend this finger down just a bit, although it's already kind of long. So I'm going to trim off a little bit of the tip of the finger. Yes, I can do that. What is this, spittle coming off of his chin? Well, it is now. I'm going to continue the dark upper outline of the eye into the furrow of the brow here, just to make it one cohesive unit. Then those lines right in the middle just kind of prevent it from being one cohesive unit. I'm going to take the white out and dab it, create a little white space to bring it all together. Good enough. Do some shoulder stuff. You know, when you have so many lines going in different directions, for instance, on the skin of the monster, you're bound to have intersecting lines, and a lot of times in texture, it would probably do well to take the same approach as you would when rendering the muscles of the neckline, running into a line and then leaving a gap before it intersects and continues on. Oftentimes I'll do that in the texture as well with lines that cross each other. I won't totally make them cross each other. I'll leave like a highlight, if you will, a break right at the intersection on one side, and then I'll continue on. It's pretty stylistic. And it can add dimension too, but then when you get into that area, you have to pay attention to where your breaks are in the light sources.
Hi.
Hi, I won the contest to hang out with Tom Nguyen.
Okay, come on in. Just hang out here for a second, I'm gonna go get him. Honey, anh, có thằng nào ở dưới lậu nó nói nó win cái contest gì của anh á.
Oh man, jeez. All right, bring him up, bring him up. I'll talk to him really quick.
Okay. All right, follow me.
Hey, I'm Tom.
Tom, I'm Tim.
Hey, hey, Tim. Yeah. How's it going?
Good.
Well, I'm kind of caught me off guard. I'm kind of in a deadline pinch, but I totally forgot about this little contest. But hey, you're here. What do you want to do? What do you want to talk about?
Why do you have the girls here?
Don't worry about them. So what, you got some stuff for me to see here?
I want to be an inker like you, so I thought I'd bring some of my stuff to...
Well, let's see what you got.
It took me about 2 days to do that.
You sure you want to be an inker? I mean, it's just so many other jobs there that pay more money and less work, and it's...
I would want to be like you. I want to do like, you know, a DC comic like Justice League or something.
Your feathering looks pretty nice, I guess. But
Can I ask you a question?
sure.
What do you do when people call you just like a tracer?
Tracer? Is that what they call you?
Yeah.
Let me show you something. See that spot right there?
Yeah.
Didn't trace that, did I?
No.
Let me tell you something. Next time somebody calls you a tracer, you tell them you're the executive decision maker of lines. Remember that. It's your portfolio. Why don't you email me or something through my website, and we'll talk more if you want. I kind of got a deadline and stuff like that. Yeah, no, just email me. It's fine. Just email me.
We're gonna hang out.
No, this is just a contest to meet me. Just to meet. No, just email me. We'll hang out. We'll hang out. No, we'll hang out. Just email me. We'll hang out. All right. Hey, thanks, Tim. We'll hang out. Thanks, Tim. Bye. I'm about to rule the straight lines using my thicker rapidograph pen. So I'm going to rule what seems to be the vertical lines of the background building structures. Now, I say vertical lines, but they're actually not completely parallel. So I won't be using my drafting arm to rule these lines because they actually kind of shift subtly as you move across the page, and they converge at the vanishing point, which is way, way off the page. I think Doug has just kind of faked it. So I'm just going to go along with the straight edge here, my triangle, and I'm going to rule all the vertical lines. I'm just running them along. I'm going to X them as I go along. And it seems Doug put some light source in this too. Areas that are raised off the surface of the structure have a dark left side. I'm going to use a thinner line for the right side to indicate that light is coming in from our right side. And I'm actually running these lines right through her hair. I might come back in later with some white ink or paint and maybe highlight the tops of the hair against that line that I just ruled through. It'll help pop out the hair a bit. Or when you rule the line, you can just not rule it all the way to the top edge of the hair and start at the bottom and just continue on through, leaving a little white space to indicate a little bit of hair thickness. That's what I usually do anyway. Lines that are thinner than what this pen can handle, I will save for later when I'd use the thinner rapidograph pen tip. Some of the ink won't dry for another few seconds, so be careful you don't lay the triangle directly against the ink, or otherwise it'll smudge when you remove it. So I'm actually kind of raising it off the ledge just a bit. Right now I'm breaking up the line where these other lines pass through the black area right there. And I'm doing that because I'm going to leave a little highlighted edge to these lines going this way, like it's recessed into the surface of the building if I highlight one edge of it that's against the black areas. You'll see what I mean later when I fill it in with black. Now these series of lines, you got 4 sets of double lines that Doug has drawn. I see them actually as grooves within the surface of this building structure. These grooves are composed of 2 lines, and one of those lines will be thick and the other one will be thin. It will give it a little more dimension. This here looks to be the contour of the building, so I'm actually going to thicken that up. For contours of anything, buildings or figures, I like to give it a slight extra thickness relative to its interior lines. The thickness just kind of establishes it as a presence on its own, gives it some weight and some mass. Then we move on to this other side, which is just a blackened in building. Some more vertical lines over here. And this vertical line that I'm about to rule, remember, I want it to be consistent with these lines that are intersecting it. Up here in the black area, I've already left breaks to highlight edges of those lines, and I'm going to do the same here. And of course, the other way to do it is to draw the line all the way through and then just come back in with a little white brush or pen. Okay, now I'm going to rule the lines that shoot off from the horizon line, which would be right here. That's the mark. If the pencil has indicated a pencil mark where the vanishing point would be, it helps to line your straight edge against it and then just rule with that to keep everything consistent instead of just eyeballing it. Of course, with the lines that I just ruled, the vanishing point is so far off the page it's not practical to actually line something up with it. But in this case, it is right on the page, so I'm just going to line this up to the vanishing point and start ruling the lines. Now, as I'm ruling these lines, I'm picking which ones that I want to make with this pen thickness. You don't want to make everything thick because then you're not really going to push it back into the background too much. You want to leave some thin lines for the background so it doesn't interfere with the objects or people in the foreground. And then when these two squares or rhombuses will be blackened in, you'll see the highlighted edge of these panels against the surface of the building structure. Move on to this side. Again, where you want to use the thick lines and the thin lines is basically your discretion, but do use a variety because it'll just make it look more interesting than if you use one line width throughout the entire background. Although in some cases it may work if you're just going to use thin lines, if your intent really is to not make the background a focus of any sort. I'm leaving breaks along this line because the grooves here run all the way up through here. So I'm leaving breaks where those grooves are so then I can render them properly. Some of these lines don't exactly match unless I'm using the wrong vanishing point. Doesn't seem like it. So I think Doug might have just misaligned them a bit, in which case I will correct. Part of an inker's job sometimes is to correct. The line that I previously ruled has overlapped this line on the corner, so I'm going to have to come back in with the whiteout and touch that up. I'm going to touch it up right now. If I don't correct things right away, it bugs me. There we go. Just a few more. I don't have too much to go on this panel ruling the straight lines. When I whip out the straight edge, I just tend to rule all the straight lines on the entire page. Then I'll move on to any French curve work or circle or elliptical work. To me, this is probably one of the most boring steps, but I gotta do it. Let's get some kind of weird gradation going here. Just gonna go ahead and connect these lines freehand. Kind of faded, but it looks like he wanted to draw this thing all the way through and back up for that design, so that's what I will do. It's about good to go for that panel. Move on to the second panel, and I'm going to see whether I need to rule any straight lines. It doesn't look like I do. Actually, these little dashes on this circular emblem on his chest, if you really want to get technically particular with that area, you can use a straight edge to rule the lines and to help you make sure that those are parallel. And for something that small and insignificant, I'm not going to worry about line widths, but I will make it clean. Let's move on to the third panel. I don't see any need to rule the straight lines. These little waffle gradations as design elements in the background to fill up some of the white space You could use the straight edge for that if you want. Actually, I think I will, just to show you another way to rule out these waffle gradations. I kind of did my best Tim Townsend impression there anyway, really quickly in the first panel. Now I'm going to show you how to do it with a straight edge. You basically use a lot of broken lines in the parts of the waffle gradations that fade out to the edges. And as you get deeper into the center of that mass, then you'll use more longer, less broken lines. So I get to the edges, start dotting them out. It's flashy, but it doesn't look like it requires as much work as the pattern I demonstrated in the first panel. But it gets the job done, and it's still even a little fancier than your typical straightforward right angle cross hatching, where there's no broken lines and it's just pretty plain. Although, you know, sometimes simple cross hatching like that will work too for these gradations. Now you see how the lines in the center of this mass of waffle gradations are more unbroken than the lines that are fading out the edges here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the same approach and rule it the other way at the 90-degree angle. So I'm going to rotate the page, and I'm going to use the same approach going the other direction. Broken lines on the sides, longer lines toward the middle, fading out to broken lines again. I guess the effect kind of looks as if you actually ruled all these lines all the way through and you took white out and you just kind of dabbed the ends all around the area. It's kind of fancy and flashy. And that's how that turns out. Similar to this, but without the wavering line widths all the way through like this would be. So I'm going to continue the same thing with this small set here between the monster and the girl. Just to keep it consistent throughout this panel. Even though it's not consistent with the first panel, it's just something different to do in this panel. And I do this freehand quite a bit. But if you're not confident enough to make it look even and lined up, then the straight edge can help you accomplish that quite quick. You can spend forever on these if you want, but I'd rather focus on more important areas of the page. I don't want the eyes drawn too much to the background elements when there's more important stuff going on in that panel. I'm glad these waffle gradations don't get any bigger than this on this page, because I'd probably just go back in with an eraser and just erase them, pretend they were never there. I keep telling Doug to stop giving me these waffle gradations because they're a pain in the ass.